My boyfriend humiliated me in front of his buddies and broke up with me at a restaurant, leaving me to cover the bill. As he walked out, he shouted that someone like me should feel lucky he even bothered to date me. I kept my cool and smiled through it. This morning, my phone was flooded with 13 missed calls. Honestly, I'm still reeling from last weekend's chaos. I keep replaying in my mind, half wondering if I made it all up, but my maxed out credit card and the ice cream smudges on my sofa prove it was all too real. For context, Ryan and I had been together for 2 years, not some fleeting romance. We had our little traditions. Sunday Netflix binges, cringeworthy holiday dinners with both our families, and even that bizarre couple's yoga class he wanted to try. We were both terrible at it, honestly. Things weren't flawless, were they ever? But I thought we were steady. We'd even discussed maybe moving in together this summer. Sure, he had annoying quirks, like leaving socks all over the place, texting during films, or dropping helpful remarks about my looks, like, "That top makes your shoulders look broad," or "Ever consider switching up your hair?" I always chalked it up to him being blunt. Looking back, I was so naive. Last Friday, Ryan texted me about a dinner with some work friends. He'd never really invited me into his work world before, always claiming it wasn't professional. So I was genuinely thrilled. I went all out, splurging on a new outfit could buy budget, and spending ages getting ready. Full YouTube makeup routine, my special occasion straightener, the whole deal. I arrive at this fancy downtown restaurant, the kind with tiny plates and no prices listed. First warning sign. Ryan's already there with 2 co-workers, Leonard and Pablo. The moment I approach, the vibe feels off. Ryan barely acknowledges me, just a half-hearted rise from his seat and a curt, "You're late." I was 2 minutes late, because parking was a nightmare. I sit down and he glances at my outfit and says, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Oh, you chose that?" His friends exchange a glance, and my cheeks start burning. For the record, I had on a dark blue dress I thought was flattering. Nothing wild or out of place. I try to brush it off a joke like, "Did I miss the memo on the dress code?" But he just shrugs and says they already ordered appetizers. Great. The next hour is Ryan dominating the conversation with work jargon I don't follow, while his friends nod along. Whenever I try to chime in, Ryan either talks over me or corrects me, dismissing whatever I said. At one point, I bring up a story about a customer at my store, and he cuts me off with, "She doesn't really get how actual businesses work," waving his hand like my retail job of 3 years as a manager is irrelevant. I'm sitting there, growing more uneasy, wondering if Ryan's always been this patronizing, or if he's just playing it up for his friends. Either way, it's not a good look. Then Leonard asks how we met, and I start sharing how my best friend Vanessa, his co-worker, introduced us. Ryan interrupts mid-sentence with, "Yeah, Vanessa felt sorry for her, so I took one for the team," and laughs. My heart sank. That's not remotely how it went down. Vanessa had actually cautioned me about Ryan's ego, but said he had a good side deep down. Spoiler, he didn't. I excuse myself to the bathroom to keep from crying in front of them. In the stall, I'm texting Vanessa, freaking out about what's happening, when I see Ryan tag himself on Instagram at the restaurant with Boys Night Out, like I'm invisible. Vanessa calls me right away, but I send her a voicemail, so the guys won't hear me sobbing. I splash water on my face, touch up my makeup, and give myself a pathetic little pep talk in the mirror about surviving dinner with some shred of self-respect. When I return, they're all laughing about something, but go silent the second I sit down. Perfect. The waiter brings our entrees, and Ryan starts poking fun at my food choice. I got pasta, one of the cheaper options since I was already stressing about the bill. He makes comments like, "Training for a car marathon," and "Bold pick for your figure." Each jab stings like a tiny cut, and they're piling up. I'm barely eating, just nudging food around my plate, counting down the seconds until I can escape. Then Pablo asks Ryan about some work presentation, and Ryan launches into a story about how his boss adored his ideas, and he's basically leading the whole project. Something clicks in my head. The week before, Ryan was panicking about the same presentation, saying his part was only 5 minutes, and he was nervous. Now he's the star of the show. It's like he's living in a fantasy where he's the hero. Then the bill arrives. The The waiter sets it down. Ryan glances at it, then slides it toward me. I think he's just showing me the total, but then he says, and I'll never forget it, "You know, I don't think this is working." I stare, waiting for the joke. There's none. I've tried, but I'm just not into you anymore. We're done. Right there, in a packed restaurant, in front of his friends, after 2 years. Who does that? I'm stunned. Are you serious? This is how you're doing this? He grabs his jacket, stands, and says, my stomach still twists thinking about it. Someone like you should be thankful I even bothered with you this long. You're not exactly a catch. Then he and his friends walk out, laughing, leaving me with a $347 bill for their overpriced Wagyu appetizers and craft cocktails. The waiter gives me this pitying look that makes everything 10 times worse. I pay with my credit card, still recovering from Christmas shopping, and somehow get to my car without completely breaking down. In the parking lot, I call Vanessa, crying so hard she can barely make out my words. She shows up at my place with Ben & Jerry's and wine, the true hero. Between ugly sobs and stress-eating cookie dough, I spill everything. She's furious, and I have to talk her out of storming Ryan's place. Then she gets quiet, asking weirdly specific questions about what Ryan said about his job, the project, his role. Finally, she says, Sabrina, I don't know how to tell you this, but Ryan's not who he claims to be at work. Turns out, he's not some rising marketing star. He's an assistant who fetches coffee and books meetings. Those business trips? Made up. The big presentation? He just made the slides for the real team. His fancy LinkedIn title? Pure fiction. I felt so stupid. For 2 years. This guy lied about practically everything, and I never questioned it. What else was fake? After Vanessa left, I turned into a private investigator. I dug through our texts, our photos, everything. So many red flags I'd ignored. Comments about money that didn't add up. Late nights at work, when his location showed him across town. I couldn't sleep, replaying how small he made me feel in that restaurant, how utterly humiliated I was. At 3 a.m., I get a text from an unknown number. Hey, it's Cody from Ryan's office. Vanessa gave me your number. There's stuff you need to know. That's when things got really wild. First, a huge thank you for all the supportive comments on my last post. I was genuinely moved to tears by some of your messages, in the best way possible. And since so many of you want an update, here's the next chapter of this utterly chaotic saga. After learning from Cody, who works alongside Ryan, that my boyfriend of 2 years had been spinning a web of lies in his own imaginary world, I spent the following days in that awful haze you get after a breakup. You know the kind, where you're either sobbing into a tub of ice cream or furiously flipping through old pictures, questioning if any of it was ever real. My place was a wreck. Dishes stacked high, laundry scattered everywhere, and probably half a dozen empty takeout bags because the thought of cooking was just too much. The hardest part was those moments when I'd think of a funny thing to text Ryan, only to remember what went down, and it felt like getting dumped all over again. My mind was trapped in this cycle of did that really happen? And how did I miss all the signs? I'd been steering clear of social media because I just knew Ryan would post something infuriating. But on Wednesday morning, I gave in and opened Instagram. Sure enough, there he was, flexing in a gym selfie with a caption, "Rise up, know your value." The nerve of him. I nearly chucked my phone across the room. That evening, Vanessa came by with takeout and found me cocooned in my blanket like a miserable taco. She's been a rock through all of this, making sure I eat real food, patiently listening to me vent about the same things on repeat, and never once saying, "I told you so," even though she'd had her doubts about Ryan from the start. While we ate, Vanessa showed me her text with Cody. They'd been chatting a lot, and he had some serious dirt to share. According to Cody, Ryan had been telling everyone at work that he ended things with me because I was too needy and always bringing up marriage. Excuse me? I wasn't the one with a Pinterest board titled Dream House Vibes that Ryan swore was for some work project. Then Cody hit me with the real shocker. Ryan wasn't just exaggerating his job title. He was on thin ice at work for claiming credit for other people's efforts and might actually get the boot soon. All those late nights working, he was scrambling to cover up his screw-ups before anyone caught on. Those business trips? Completely made up. I was still reeling from this when my phone rang. It was Tina, Ryan's mom. I almost didn't pick up talk about awkward, but I decided to be mature about it. Tina's always been incredibly kind to me, like remembering my birthday and actually caring about my life. She sounded worried and asked if things were okay between me and Ryan. Apparently, he'd told his family we just had a small argument, but were totally fine. A small argument? The guy publicly embarrassed me, dumped me in front of his friends, and left me with a massive bill. I kept things vague, saying we were taking some time apart, because I didn't want to drag her into the mess. Then she brought up Ryan's birthday dinner on Saturday, and how the whole family was excited to see me there. I nearly choked on my lo mein. Ryan had told his family we were still together, and that I'd be at his birthday dinner at his parents' house, where he'd apparently hinted we had big news to share. After I hung up, I sat there stunned while Vanessa stared at me like I'd sprouted horns. She was like, "Is he out of his mind or just a compulsive liar?" Honestly, I was wondering the same thing. That's when we hatched a plan. I wasn't going to just ditch his family. They'd always been good to me, and they deserved to know who Ryan really was. But I wasn't going to make a scene or be spiteful. I'd go to the dinner as invited and let the truth unfold on its own. The next day, I met Cody for coffee, which was a bit weird since we'd only known each other through Ryan, but he was actually pretty cool. He backed up everything and added more details about Ryan's work lies. The team Ryan said he was leading? Just him and a couple of interns. The big presentation he claimed to run last month? He was just clicking through slides while his boss did the talking. Cody seemed genuinely bothered for me, saying he'd always thought Ryan's stories about me didn't add up. Apparently, Ryan would show up to work griping that I was high maintenance, when in reality, I was covering most of our dates toward the end because Ryan said he was between paychecks, which I now realize probably meant he was awful with money. Halfway through our chat, Cody got a text from their boss asking if he could come in Saturday evening for an urgent project. Cody was bummed about canceling his plans, but then I had a light bulb moment. What if Cody needed to swing by Ryan's parents' house during the birthday dinner to drop something off? The timing would be perfect. As we were hashing out the details, my phone pinged with a text from Ryan, the first since the restaurant fiasco. It just said, "We should talk about what went down." I might have gone overboard. Might have? I showed Cody, and he nearly choked on his coffee. Going overboard is getting annoyed when someone's late, not publicly humiliating your girlfriend of 2 years, and sticking her with a $300 tab. I didn't reply, let him stew. The next 2 days were a whirlwind of prep. I wasn't going to this dinner unprepared. I sifted through old texts, piecing together all of Ryan's lies. Dates when he claimed to be at work conferences that never happened. Stories about co-workers Cody confirmed were fake. Even photos Ryan posted of himself at work events that were just pulled from the company website. Friday night, Vanessa came over to help me choose an outfit. I'll admit, part of me wanted to show up looking drop-dead gorgeous just to rub in his face. But we agreed the best move was to look polished, but not like I was trying too hard. We went with a simple black dress that Ryan once said made me look ordinary, which I now see was his weird attempt at negging, because I always got compliments when I wore it. I barely slept Friday night, running through every possible way this could go wrong. What if his family sided with him? What if I froze and couldn't follow through? By Saturday morning, my nails were chewed to stubs, and I'd imagine at least 17 different outcomes. Around noon, Ryan texted again. "Can't wait to see you tonight. We're something nice, my parents are pumped." I didn't respond to that either. Let him believe whatever he wanted. I spent the afternoon getting ready, feeling a strange mix of nerves and excitement. Vanessa helped with my hair and gave me a pep talk when I started to second-guess myself. At 5:30, I got in my car and headed to his parents' house. I had to pull over once because my hands were shaking too much to drive. I sat there for a minute, doing those breathing exercises from a meditation app one downloaded ages ago, but never used. What was I doing? Was this insane? Maybe I should just block Ryan and move on like a normal person. But then I pictured him at his birthday dinner, probably spinning some fake story about our relationship, maybe even playing the victim, and my determination kicked back in. I pulled up to his parents' house at 6:15, fashionably late, which I knew would get under Ryan's skin. The driveway was packed with cars. Looked like the whole family was there. I checked my makeup in the rear-view mirror, took one final deep breath, and walked to the door. Ryan's dad greeted me with a warm smile and a hug, welcoming me inside. The house smelled like Tina's signature pot roast, and for a moment, I felt a twinge of sadness. I really liked Ryan's family, and this would probably be the last time I'd see them. I turned the corner into the living room, and there was Ryan, drink in hand, laughing at something his cousin said. He stopped dead when he saw me, clearly not expecting me to actually show up despite what he'd told his family. The look on his face? Honestly, it was priceless. For a split second, panic flickered across his expression before he pulled himself together and came over with a fake grin. He gave me an awkward hug and whispered, "You actually showed up? We need to talk alone." I just smiled and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, that I wouldn't miss his birthday for anything, especially since he'd been telling everyone we had big news to share. His face went pale. Tina clapped her hands excitedly, asking if this was what she thought it was. Ryan's sister shot me a knowing glance, and his dad started joking about grandkids. Ryan grabbed my elbow a bit too tightly, trying to pull me toward the hallway, but his mom called out that dinner was ready, and we all needed to sit down. As we took our seats at the dining table, with Ryan nervously eyeing me, my phone buzzed with text from Cody. On my way, 15 minutes out. Ryan leaned over and hissed, "What are you doing here?" After the restaurant fiasco, I flashed a bright grin and announced, loud enough for the whole room to catch, "Oh, I can't wait to spill the tea about what went down at that restaurant, Ryan. Your family's going to love this one." The sheer terror that washed over his face as his mom started serving dinner made every nerve-wracking moment worth it. Game on. Second update. I'm finally ready to dish on what happened at Ryan's birthday dinner. Apologies for keeping you waiting. I needed a mental breather after all that chaos. Plus, my Wi-Fi's been a mess because my neighbor borrowed my password and apparently tried to download the entire internet. So where were we? Right, me at the dinner table with Ryan's family, watching him squirm, wondering what I might say next. There I was, seated with Ryan's crew, his parents, Tina and Ralph, his sister Kayla, his grandma, and two cousins whose names I can never keep straight. The table was pile high with Tina's legendary pot roast, those creamy mashed potatoes I've literally fantasized about, and a fancy salad everyone would politely ignore but praise anyway. The first 20 minutes were painfully tense. Ryan was desperately steering conversation, shooting me warning looks. I just smiled past the dinner rolls and relished how his eyelid twitched every time I spoke. Petty? Sure. Satisfying? Oh, absolutely. Tina, bless her, kept things moving with small talk about my family and job. When she gushed about how proud they were of Ryan's big promotion, I nearly choked on my drink. I glanced at Ryan, whose face matched the beats on the table. He launched into a spiel about how his team was killing it and how his boss was practically setting him up to run the show. I just nodded, watching him dig his own grave with every word. Ralph, usually the silent type, suddenly asked Ryan about the Johnson account, some major deal Ryan had apparently bragged about leading. Ryan's response was so vague it could have been a fortune cookie, something about strategic shifts and core strengths that said absolutely nothing. Kayla, who's always been a family skeptic, the one who fact-checks mid-argument, caught my eye across the table. Her raised eyebrow screamed, "Is he serious right now?" Then Tina brought up our big news, asking if it had anything to do with taking things to the next level. Ryan nearly fumbled his fork, muttering that it wasn't the time to talk about it. His grandma, who has zero chill and is hands down my favorite person in his family, piped up, "So, are you two shacking up or what? Ryan said you were house hunting together." News to me. The closest we'd come to that was me joking we should merge our Netflix accounts to save a buck. Ryan tried redirecting the spotlight, rambling about how his boss gave him a company card for work expenses. I couldn't resist. I asked, all innocent, what kind of expenses he could approve. He stumbled, mentioning client dinners and team events. That's when I dropped, ever so casually, "Oh, speaking of dinners, Ryan took me to this incredible restaurant last week." "Was it called, babe?" "The one where you met up with Leonard and Pablo." His face drained of color faster than my phone battery after 20 minutes of TikTok scrolling. Seriously, my phone dies so fast. Anyone else? Before he could recover, the doorbell rang. Perfect timing. Tina went to answer, and I heard her exclaim, "Cody!" What a lovely surprise. Ryan looked like he might faint. Cody strolled in, all business in his button-up, clutching a folder. He apologized for crashing the birthday dinner, but said Ryan needed to sign some urgent work papers for Monday. Tina, ever the gracious host, invited him to stay for cake. Ryan tried to hustle Cody out, but Ralph insisted they coo.